啊，各种货的，好像这个。
Isaac, this way please.
Please be careful when opening the compartment so that items inside do not fall out. Thank you. 各位乘客，根據安全條例，所有手提行李都必須放喺前座椅下或行李櫃內。任何物件如因體積或重量唔能夠存放於上述位置。結帳服務員會安排將閣下嘅行李寄倉。請小心打開行李櫃，避免物件跌下。多謝。
各位乘客，請 make sure they're stored in the overhead compartments for takeoff and landing。當離開機艙嘅時候，先至將救生衣充氣，需要。
Mum, I love you.
Handheld devices must be held securely or placed